Hello, people. So obviously, this video here is going to be a change a bit from the usual, which is locks. I'm going to be talking about my books. Now, I was actually watching one of Brooklyn Carter's videos about 2 weeks ago, 2.5 weeks ago, and I commented and asked her, can she? I noticed her book collection in the background. I asked her, can she, do a video on a few of her books, and I think the questions was, what's her favorite book, what she's currently reading, and how does she find books to read. I believe that was the questions, right? And she actually did the video. I appreciate it. And so here I am returning the favor. Now I'm gonna try not to go off track and get into go down rabbit holes, because a few of the books that I'm reading, it really goes down a lot of rabbit holes. So I'm gonna try to keep it on the straight path as I can. So we're gonna start with my favorite book. My favorite book, I would say, is that's real tough, man. I would probably say Truevine. Yeah, I would say Truevine. Truevine is my favorite book. For sure, one of my favorites, man. It's hard to choose, but I would say Truevine because I I remember when I first got it, like I couldn't put it down, and I read it. This was probably the fastest book I read, and it's about the Muse brothers. So I remember seeing them on social media, and I had never seen them before then, or never even heard about them before then. And they really struck me, not because they were albino so much, but because of the way their hair was, and in the era that they had hair like that in. Like they were like one of the first generations after slavery ended. So then people were like trying not to have nappy hair, you know? And for them to have dreadlocks like this back then, that really intrigued me. So I started searching stuff up on them, and there was no book out at the time that I was searching. This book wasn't out, and so I would keep going back, and because I was hoping, I'm like, yo, somebody got to make a documentary or write a book on these people or something. I was just, and lo and behold, I looked one day and there was a book coming out, and I said, yo, I gotta have this book. So I pre-ordered that book, and I got it, and I just went to town, man. And I learned so much stuff, like so much side stuff. Now a lot of the books I read, that's what happens. I there's a lot of rabbit holes to these books, So I ended up learning about other books, and so I would say that's probably my favorite. I would say also the State Boys Rebellion, man. This book right here took me down a lot of rabbit holes. People, I just learned so much in this book right here. This is probably my most informative. Well, no, I take that back. This probably is my second most informative book. First or second. But people, listen, man. People talk about this has to do with eugenics, and mental institutions. How people were stuffing their kids in mental institutions, even if they weren't mentally retarded. But mental institutions, a lot of times in this era, was more to you. Like if your kid came out with a disability, like they were like put there to like get them out of the way from the world. So, or if you didn't have enough money to take care of children, one of two of them had to go, and that's where they will stuff them at. Listen, man, people talk about Margaret Sanger all the time. You're gonna hear, you've been on social media long enough, you're gonna hear a lot of people talk about Margaret Sanger when it comes to eugenics. Listen, she was a very, 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 very small piece to a much, 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 much larger puzzle. Like, so people like to regurgitate her name, and I get it, but again, once you start looking into this stuff, like actually looking into this stuff, not just stuff that you see on social media, like actually looking into it, you'll find that a lot of people that are circulated on social media, that they're just a small part of a much bigger thing. So, and I'm currently reading what I'm currently reading. So I'm currently reading the Plutonium Files. This book right here, man, Listen, if you were on my Instagram and you seen that post that I made up for like last week, where I told people how Bikini Bottom from SpongeBob like got its name and what it was based off of, I should say. It was based off of like a spot, an island where they actually moved people off of, and they like was testing nuclear weapons. So that means everything around that was nuclear, like had radiation in it. So and it was called Bikini Atoll, Bikini Atoll. So, but again, it's one of these books where it's got a lot of rabbit holes. You find out a lot of information, a lot of stuff that was going on. Basically, it's about how they were injecting people with plutonium, uranium, like, and they were injecting them with this stuff 100, 2,000, like 100, hundreds of times the maximum of what you should have in the body, or not should have in the body, or what you would get in the body, yearly from radiation. They were injecting these people with thousands of times that. So, but what they were doing was they needed to, they were building the atomic bomb at this time. So they needed to see how it would perform, or when they dropped it, not if, when they dropped it, how it would affect the human body. And so they were testing on American people, mostly older people. And a lot of these people didn't know that they were being injected with this stuff. They were injecting pregnant women with uranium, and there was a lot of experiments going on during the Cold War days. So, not to go down rabbit holes, but that's what this book is about. Very informative book. I'm on chapter 27 or 47 right now, so I'm learning a lot. How do I pick my books? I actually just randomly find out about books, honestly, man. And when I say randomly, like I may be watching a documentary, and a documentary mentions a book, and I'll go look the book up, and if I read it and it piques my interest, I'll buy it. Sometimes I may be reading another book and they mention another book in there, and I'll be like, and I'll highlight it and I'll go look it up. And if it piques my interest, I'll get it. Rarely, if ever, I don't think I've ever bought a book because someone recommended it to me. I don't read like that. I feel like which is a big reason why I don't recommend books, because my interest is probably not going to be your interest. Like, a lot of this stuff is dry reading. Perfect example would be this book, The Dan Kamathi. And I actually mentioned him before on my channel. You can see his locks. I call him my lock twin because his locks are, they're sticking out the side like this. And you can see he has rubber bands here at the length of his locks. Listen, one of my favorite people, one of my favorite revolutionaries. But this is dry reading. Like, so I wouldn't recommend it to somebody who, because I'm interested in him that much, so I didn't mind it. But it's a lot of litigation, court documents. Very little of it is actually reading. So, if you're into that type of stuff, you don't mind that type of stuff, then yeah, it's a good book. But, there's books that it's just of my own personal interest. You may say, well, don't everybody choose books like that? Not necessarily. I think, let me give you an example. What's the name of that book? The Destruction of Black Civilization. Was it? That's what it's called? Yes. Highly recommended book. I won't say I would never read it, but I have, right at this moment in time in my life, I have no interest in ever reading that book. Not because I think it's a bad book, or it's just not of my interest. Like, I mean, my very personal interest. So if a book is not of my very personal interest, I'm probably not going to, read it, because I don't like to read just for the sake of saying I read a book. I like to be very interested in it. Like, that's why I like the books that I read. Like, I'm so interested in them that I'm highlighting stuff and looking up stuff. You know what I'm saying? I'm not just trying to read it just to get through it, or just to say that I read that book. So that's how I choose my books. And a lot of times, man, I get these books cheap, man. Like, I'll go on like Amazon or eBay or something like that, and get them for like cheap through like third party sellers and whatnot. Like this book called Crazy. It was somebody had it on Amazon for like $200. Not Amazon. They had it on Etsy for $200. Excuse me. and I'm like, I really want this book. Am I willing to pay $200 for it? So I'll say, I looked around first, went on Amazon. It was like $13, man. So, you can't beat that. But that's how I choose books. Looking at other documentaries, the books that are books that I'm actually reading, they actually suggest or not suggest or mention other books. And I say, oh, that sounds interesting. And I go look it up. And if it's good to go, I get it. I have 22 books. I don't have a big collection of books because I just, I read at my interest. I would say, yes, half of those books are chess instructional books, like 500 Master Games of Chess, Logical Chess Move by Move, Bobby Fischer, 60 Most Memorable Games, Chess Openings for White Explained, Mastering the Opening, The Open Roy Lopez, Chess Openings for Black Explained. And so I have that. Those are my just chess instructional books. But I also have chess books that pertain to chess, but they're not in chess instructional books. Like this one, I haven't even touched this book yet. The book I just showed you, Crazy, and this one I haven't even touched them yet because I'm still on the Plutonium Files. This is about one of the greatest chess players ever. Lost his mind. That's interesting to me. So I wouldn't recommend it to somebody unless somebody's like really into chess like this. And some of these books I wouldn't really, I wouldn't recommend it to them. The Russians versus Fischer, basically about how the Russians were watching Fischer. In his relationship with them. Again, not something that I would recommend to somebody unless they're actually a chess junkie. You know what I mean? So, but that about covers it all, man. I think, I covered my favorite book, how I choose books, what I'm currently reading. And look, I mean, I'm not a book suggester, but if you guys hear about any of these books and you go look them up and they catch your interest, then fine, go at it. But that's just my personal collection, man. I just books. That's all my personal taste. I don't even know what my next read will be. Well, as far as when I'm finished these, like, cause I don't know. My next purchase, I wanted it to be John Calhoun and the Rat Experiment, but Amazon has it for like $1,000. So it was, he was talking about like population control. I want to read about the Bridgewater State facility. So, but again, those books are in the future. So those are probably going to be my reads after I get through with these two books. And that concludes this video, man. In the comments, let me know what books you guys are reading. Do you find any of these books interesting? How do you choose your books? Thanks for watching this video. See you next time.